All right, you guys ready to move on? I got
Let's do it.
Uh-oh, the hat.
the question hats. So the first question for tonight. All right, first question tonight is Western civilization collapsing? Wendell, we'll start with you on that one. Is Western civilization collapsing?
Yes. And I can give you an example.
Go ahead.
And we have no idea what was in your hat, just so everybody knows.
Right. These are
we have,
all
none of us.
I made
None
them.
of us have any idea what your mind came up with today and put in that hat. But yes, I have an example.
Go ahead.
Have you guys watched any football games lately or hockey games? Have you noticed all the announcers want to be soccer announcers now? Every score is a long yell. Everything has to be now this is frivolous, but this is just an example. Every announcer can't report the touchdown now, or can't report the score, or even in the NBA basketball, everybody yells when they report the news, or report what's going on in the field. Everybody has to come up with a gimmick. Like I know with the Colts is one that I'm from Indy. That's INDY, touchdown, INDY, and it stretches out in a big long yell, and it annoys the hell out of me because it's how soccer's always done it. It's how the soccer announcers have always done. And you know how soccer has kind of infiltrated America, and it's a good sport, I guess, but it's not the American sport that we all grew up with. The three biggies,
Right.
So a little old school, old fashioned stuff coming in here. But I've noticed every announcer, they got to have a gimmick line, a catchphrase, and they do that. You know how the soccer guys always say score and they stretch it out for 10 seconds and really they get loud. That's how all of our announcers are doing now. And I think it just saddens me because it's exactly what you say. On a lighthearted note, our Western civilization is going away in our sports because all they're doing is trying to be soccer announcers. And I don't know why they think that's popular. It's big in hockey too. Maybe the sports where you only score one goal every three or 4 days. That's you got to have that. But not in baseball, football, and basketball. And I see it infiltrating those sports. As far as Western culture, yeah, Jeff, in a more serious side of things, I think the globalization movement has had a big impact. And I think there's a struggle in the world now, especially in America, as far as, do we want to be globalists like on Star Trek, where everybody is under the thumb of one little committee, everybody in the world, or do we want our individualism? And what do they call it? There's globalist, and then there's they make it a negative to where when you like your country,
they say
and you want your country. Isolationist, yeah.
Nationalist.
Yeah. So I think there's a big struggle on what people go, because I think people were going global and they started thinking, no, this isn't us. This isn't us. We don't like it. We don't do it this way. No. And that you start pulling back, and then you get into the and they make it a negative that you're trying to be an isolationist and not wanting to deal with the rest of the world. Well, I think with our economics and just technology today, there's no way you can not deal with the rest of the world. You're going to have to, but keeping your values, keeping your morality, and keeping your way of life is a fight now, because going global, you lose your individualism. I mean, it's kind of in the term. So, but yes, I think the Western civilization, and it's not all negative. I'm not saying it's all negative. The Western folks haven't done everything right, but I think people always overlook, or they highlight the negative in our history, but they don't realize that a lot of the negative in our history is why we're here where we're at. that we wouldn't even survived as, you know, nations and things if you wouldn't have done some of the things you did, and some of them aren't pretty. And but
Gotcha.
yeah, I think it's eroding, I'll say.
Gotcha. Zach, is Western civilization collapsing to you?
I think so I have arguments for both, naturally, I guess. I would say on the yes side, economics, our debt is dramatically killing us, speaking for the United States specifically, because I think we're the beacon of Western civilization. Um, so the debt, it needs some sort of solution. Either we grow our way out of it or start to chip away at it. Birth rate of folks that come in outside, from the East or Middle East, their birth rate is much higher than ours are. So if you play that out, it may take 100 years, it may take 1,000,000 years, but eventually, we decline, they increase. And then culture, obviously, we were founded on principles from the Bible. That could be a whole episode that you talk about, but we were found on principles of the Bible, and that's becoming less and less popular. So, is it coming to an end? I don't know. Is it declining? For sure. My argument for no is that the documents that our government was founded on are incredibly durable and have withstood the test of time now, I think, to give it promise moving forward. And capitalism is the tried and true best method of running a nation, is running off of capitalism. It has its issues, but capitalism is the way to grow a wealthy nation. And then if it comes down to a breaking point, which I think most things do, right? You see any civilization, it rises, it peaks, it declines, and then it falls. But one thing that all of those had in common is that the people didn't have the means to fight back, to where the Western civilization does. We just have too many guns. We have too many guns for to lose a breaking point moment, I think. A natural breaking point moment, not military engagement. But if it came to a point where people had to make a stand, do some ugly things to conserve, Western civilization, I think the people have the means to do that now. So I don't know. I have arguments for both. Is it leading that way? Yes, but all that means, I think it's leading to some sort of breaking point where some tough decisions are going to have to be made. Some, tough actions are going to have to be taken for the greater good. Talking about generations of good, not the immediate good.
Right. Steve, how about you?
Well, it's definitely a loaded question, right? I mean, talking about Western civilization, I think the problem is just in my lifetime. I'm a child. I'm obviously born in late 70s, but I'm a child of the 80s. And, I remember what it was like in the 80s, right? We had one working parent. We lived in a house. We had 2 cars. And we could afford, right? We could afford to live. We could afford to have all those things with just one working parent. Now it's completely different. If you want to at least be low middle income, it feels like you almost have to have 2 parents working in order to afford that lifestyle. We saw what happened just in our jobs alone, right? As soon as we went global in early 90s, right? They started sending our steel building to other nations. They started sending our manufacturing. I remember watching the decline. We sent all our jobs across the seas, and we helped it was weird. We actually paid for our own decline. Our government was subsidizing having Ford move operations to Mexico, or having, different companies move. There was something attractive about that. Maybe you could argue, well, we as Americans didn't want to do those jobs, but I don't think that's what it was. I think it was business looking at it as an opportunity to make some big bank real quick. So we actually paid for our own demise. And I think from a Western civilization standpoint, one of you guys said it, we're the beacon, like the United States has been the beacon of what, at least since World War II, you could argue, right? That's when we really rose to become the powerhouse we are. But now here we are. You're watching China build the biggest bridge in 4.5 years, right? I mean, I heard the argument the other day that America couldn't build that bridge because it would take 4.5 years to just decide the engineering side of it, like just to decide, is it right to put the bridge here? We'd be studying that for 10 years. It took them 4.5 years over in China to do it, right? I watch all of the technological advances that other countries are making in Asia, South Korea, China, you name it. They're all making moves, and we're stuck arguing about what it is that we argue about. I think we're already in the demise. I think we've already peaked, and I think we're into the demise. And here's how I give it to you the best. I mean, if you're poor, your poorest of the poor cannot survive in your nation. And it's arguable if we're not there yet, we're going to be there very shortly. Can't afford rent. I've never seen rent or purchasing homes as high as it has ever been. And I think it goes back to what Zach said. We have borrowed so much money to fund. And by the way, I can't show you anything we've done with $38 trillion. I can't show you like, hey, look at this awesome road we built, or look at this mega structure we built, or look at this thing that we did to help humanity move forward. And I think Zach brought it up too, as far as demographics go. I listened to this guy talk about demographics. He comes on Coast to Coast AM. He's an elderly gentleman himself. And isn't it funny? This guy said, he was talking about nations that are on the verge of collapse because of population. Japan, right? We see it. Japan is on the verge of dying. They're asking foreigners to finally come in, take up some of these villages that are out in the outskirts. They're practically giving away homes. China is now realizing that their rule of the 1980s, when they had one child rule, it actually killed off an entire generation. And they're asking the question, can they survive going forward to be what it is that they want to, right? The funny thing about what this guy said demographically for the United States was that we have so much immigration coming in from South America that we're going to have enough to fund as far as like putting people to manufacturing, putting people in the jobs and everything. This guy's argument was America's going to be in great shape because we have so many immigrants coming in from South America, and now we're kicking them all out, right? I mean, what I get down to is this: if you watch probably any of the prior fallen big, kingdoms, or, Rome, the empires that have risen, it all went down this way. Politics took it. People got selfish and greedy. People forgot it was for humanity. That's why you served in politics, right? It doesn't feel that way anymore at all. Feels like politicians go in, and ideally, I do think especially in the United States, these politicians in their first years actually do want to make a difference. But I think once they get there and they realize the monster that Washington is, I think they just fit in somewhere and hope to keep going. Because why is it politicians go in making 150, 250,000 a year, and suddenly when they leave years later, they're mega millionaires? How does that happen? So I think we're watching it happen. By the way, United States is this beacon of Western civilization. We're kicking all of our allies out, right? We're just beating them all up, pushing them towards China, pushing them towards Russia, pushing them towards other nations where we used to be the ones giving away things, taking care of people. We're getting away from that. And Western civilization alone is getting away from that. I do think we need to make sure we keep our identities as countries. I very much do. I think if you're a foreigner coming into a nation, the idea was always to kind of embrace what you're coming for, right? Doesn't mean you have to speak the exact language or anything like that, but you embrace the ideologies of that nation, right? Usually when you immigrate, you don't go in there and demand what you had where you left. Then why did you leave?
That's
Yeah,
the issue. Is
I
that
agree with you, Zach.
it's not the people, it's not the skin color, it's not
No, no.
the diversity.
Yep,
It's the either are you coming for our culture, or are you bringing yours? You know, you can look at like Dearborn, Michigan. It
yep.
is
Oh, yeah.
mostly a Muslim community, or Minnesota is, you know, a high Muslim community. I mean, most of their, you know, they have several city council members and congress people and senators in, you know, of the Muslim faith. And I think that we can objectively say that our country was not founded on those principles. Not that they're right or that they're wrong, they're just not ours. And so when
Yeah,
you
Right.
come in, you're polluting. Again, I don't mean that in a negative way, but you're just polluting our culture when you do that. And you know, unfortunately, there are a lot of sheep in our country, and they do it out of the sake of diversity, you know. And it's like all all what is it, all good intentions, or the path to hell is paved with good
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 intentions.
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 Yeah,
Yeah. So, you know, that's the guys that they use in this, and it ends up, you know, biting you in the ass by doing that. But yeah, I mean, I think that eats
Yeah.
away at our culture, and they even use some of the words in the founding documents and on the Statue of Liberty to justify it. But I don't think they understand that that was a different time. You know, we needed people like, yeah, come on, everybody come, and then we'll kind of figure it out. And but we're way past that point. We figured it out. We had an identity, and now I think it's just being more polluted with culture, not with types of people, but with the culture that's brought from outside.
I think just financially, if you really want, I mean, obviously, people being people, everybody's different cultures and everything. I don't disagree. I just think financially, you're watching a government that continues to just spend way more money than they should, right? I
Well,
mean, let's,
that's all incentives, Steve. All
yeah,
incentives. So if you run a committee and you get a budget, say your budget is $4 million for 2024, and you only spend 3.1 million. Next year, you only get 3.1 million. And so people in those positions are incentivized to spend the 4 million that they were allocated, not spend what you need, spend what you were given. So you can ask for 4.2 next year or 4.5 next year. That's the incentive program in Congress and in Senate. And that's why you have all of these USAID NGO issues where they're just passing money out for, you know, trans comic books in Peru, because they have to spend the money on something, and it has to fall within their guidelines of their committee or whatever. And if it's foreign aid, then that's what they'll chalk it up to be. But the incentive program in the government is just absolutely outlandish, and that's the issue.
yeah. I just wish we'd get back to a spot where, because look, I don't see my children's children getting. I mean, you spent so much money. I mean, I don't think people fathom the idea of what $1 trillion really is. I mean, I don't think anybody. And the sad part about it is, you could have done so much with that. Like, we could have rebuilt bridges that honestly have need. We could have opened up a lot more schools. We could have, had, how about this? We could have subsidized housing in the sense that we could have helped companies build smaller homes so that we could add homes to the overall, therefore lowering the price of homes, right? I mean, at this point now, it's so hard for anybody even to just go out and look at the rent at any rent right now. It's ridiculous. I mean, in the sense that if you're poor, cannot afford to live in your nation at all, then yeah, obviously, you know what they say about a team, you're only as good as your worst player, right? Well, we've been looking at our best players, right? We've been looking at all these billionaires and everything. I'll say this, we are a nation of having a lot of billionaires and wealthy individuals, but the problem is one person having, I think Elon just passed the first $500 billion individual. I mean, I'm sorry. just in my opinion, look, I'm all for capitalism. I truly am. But there's enough to honestly go around where the rich can still be rich. I promise you they can. But I think the difference is, how many yachts do you need? How many houses do you as a person need? I'm not bashing you. Have your fun. Eat, but I'm saying the problem is the poor, and you just keep taking more from them, right? Like, just think of just our health care alone in this nation. It's for what we're paying for it. It's pure crap. It's the worst. I mean, think about it for a second. Nobody honestly wants to go to a hospital because you don't want to pay. Well, your health care you're paying for, right? You have this huge amount of money you got to pay before you even get to use it. So
Well, they
you
ask you
got
for
people. Yeah,
they
that's what I'm
ask you for
saying.
your insurance card before they ask you what's wrong with you.
Yeah, I'm saying, and I think we've
Yeah.
gotten away what it was. People forgot that we serve humanity, right? Whether good, bad, indifferent, right? You can be wealthy. I don't care. I love that's what makes our nation great is you can be what you want to be. You can invent things. That's where the freedom is. But I think we forgot that we serve humanity. We're humans. That's all.
To me, Western civilization was the beacon of serving humanity at the beginning when we brought that kind of ideology and created what we did create. Now, as far as immigration goes and stuff, at first, you came over here, you assimilated to those ideas, and you went out, picked up, your bootstraps, and you went out and you contributed to that civilization. Now, if you go to London and stuff like that, like England, we lost England. England's lost already. Germany's on the way out, and some of these other countries.
France is
But
gone.
France has gone itself. And you see that starting to happen in America, and it's because nobody assimilates here to our ideology. Everybody brings their own stuff, and they feel entitled. That's all I got to say as far as Western civilization, but that's where I see the collapse coming from.
Just a
Could
quick
be.
note. I, as long as they keep taking God out off the top tier, because that is why we have our laws. It's why we even tell people not to steal and kill. And it's not because Steve told them not to. It's because God told them not to. But as long as they
Right.
keep removing God from society, I think it's going to decline. And the other thing, back to what Zach was saying, as far as the debt, where I see it going, and we've seen it read it in books and stories all of our life and never thought it could be true. And Steve, this is to your point as well, but it will be true. And I'm more convinced than ever when when you don't have the funds there to support your elderly. And believe me, I'm not into social programs at all, but I'm just saying something has to be managed. When people retire and they can't make an income and they can't produce and they're a burden, and when the people that can't work or the poor can't produce and they're a burden and there's no money to help, like Steve says, we see it now. Elimination, I think, is where we're going, and we've read it in stories for years.
Yeah.
Elderly,
Death is
once,
death is the result in one form or another, right? Through
yes,
lack of
Right.
means, or war. That's the only two options. You get so
or
indebted to
policy.
somebody, or you get so indebted into China, for example, and they're calling it due. Hey, we don't have it. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
either war, and then you have the funds available to take care of, or you continue to borrow, and people end up dying because the resources are not there. But death
Or
is the
people
end
die
result.
because of policy. People die because you start making policy for people to die. We can't pay for you. So once you hit this age and you're not productive or whatever, or you're not paying this much in taxes anymore, once you can't reach that level, then you are your taboo word, Zach, you're irrelevant. And if you become irrelevant, then you're not needed here. And I can see it. I can see it coming, when
Well,
policy is put in place.
I think there's enough good people. The only thing for evil to succeed is for good men to say nothing. And
Right.
I think that there's enough good people that the the easy way out, the practical result is they will starve you before they slash you. Right? They'll starve you, not stab you.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think they do it out of lack of means or lack of resources, and knowing that that will result in death. Because
Yeah.
I don't think good men would stand for, the needle.
Do you think?
Yeah,
If
but
you're
you know-
65, the needle.
Do you think AI? What did you say?
I said if you're
Yeah,
65,
I know
you
you're
get the needle.
you're committing me as soon as I'm of age,
As
so
soon
I
as you're
know that.
eligible.
What
As
the
soon as you're
saddest
of
part
age.
about that, the saddest part about that though, Wendell, is that we actually had like Social Security was well funded. I mean, it going
Mhm.
back before they started borrowing and taking and stealing from it. I mean, it was well funded. It had a lot of its own money. Problem was our Congress and our Senate went in and started borrowing money from it. And eventually you broke it down. Now you don't have the money to put into Social Security, but it was there. So Wendell, looking back, do you know that the wealthiest generation is our elderly right now? They're by far hold the most money. If you can look at it right now, demographically, the elderly right now have the most money in our nation. Okay.
Mhm.
And I agree with you, Wendell, at some point, they're not going to work, but they have the money. I think the problem is what you said though, Wendell, is that at some point the money is not going to be there to assist the poor, the elderly that don't have the money, and
Yeah.
decisions are going to have to be made about healthcare. It's already actually being made. It's
Yeah.
being made about healthcare. It's being made about the poor. It's being made, and it's basically, look, we don't have the money for these programs going forward. But the problem was, Wendell, it was there.
Mhm.
Going back 20 years, Social Security had a tremendous boom of money. Now,
Yeah.
also, did you think, you know how many people in the United States actually work? Like, how many citizens of the US right now work on a daily basis? Like, it's like, what, 53, 56%? Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
What are the other percentages? Now, obviously, some of them are poor, can't work or disabled, this, that. A lot of them are retired. Okay. But think about it. A nation of how many, you can look it up. I'm sure it'll tell you. It's somewhere between 50 to 60% of people actually working. The rest of them, not. For whatever reason. Some good, some bad.
Yeah. Do you think AI helps?
So what?
Go ahead,
Wait,
Zach.
hold on the AI.
Hold on.
We'll get to that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
On Social Security, it's really just math. So like I've come up in the insurance world, and that's what Social
Yeah.
Security is. It's an insurance policy. That's all it is. So how old do you have to be to qualify for Social Security?
I think right now, I believe it's 65, but they're looking at 67 in the
I think
future to try to help the program.
Mine's 67. I think
Okay.
mine's
Yeah.
67.
So
Okay.
so do you know when Social Security went into effect?
45 was it?
Yeah. It was,
1935.
Okay.
Do you know the average lifespan of Americans in 1935?
Probably what, late 60s?
60.
58
60s.
to 58 to 60 years old. And so you bring money in from everybody, and then more than 75% of them die before they would ever take money out. And so I believe in, the late 30s to up to 1940, only 15% of people that contributed towards Social Security took Social Security. Now it's almost, I think it's above 75%. I think it's above 80%. I think it's 82% of people that contribute towards Social Security take Social Security. So of course the coffers are going to empty a lot faster because the average age now is 74 and some change is the average lifespan. So that's one major practical issue. Again, I think the government is a bunch of buffoons, and there's not some big cabal or they're necessarily doing something evil. I think they do stuff that's stupid. So, and this is one of those stupid things that the age to qualify for Social Security should be 4 years above what the average lifespan is. And just like it was in 1935. 1935, it was 60 years, or it was 58 or 60 years old, and you had to be 64 to get it. 4 years span. And I think they should have kept to that as they just should audit it every year. What's the average lifespan? All right. Social Security is around that or a couple of years above that. And that's the only way to have benefit for the masses, is that you have to make rules for the masses. You can't make all of these exceptions or think with your heart. You got to think with math, or it's just not going to work. You run into a situation like this. Now, I mean, how many, like you said, it leads to death, right? So that's where we're at now.
Yeah.
Because we didn't use our head. We used our heart. And we're afraid of what people would think if we increase the age of Social Security. They would feel attacked. They would feel blah, 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 right? So, but then you run into a situation like this. Like, all right, well, we're eventually going to go to war because we owe so much money, or there's going to be no money and you're going to die.
And on that note, we'll go to our head of questions. All right. Well, this one's for basically Wendell and myself. It's listeners' emails. So let me pull my phone out. Okay, can everybody see my phone? All right, that was a very short segment, so we'll move on.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right, back into the head of questions.
Edit that out.
Yeah. All right, Steve. Well, who did I start with last time? Wendell?
Wendell.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, we'll start with you. Is AI going to harbor in the end of humanity?
You know, it's amazing. It's funny to me in the sense that I do think that there is a lot that can be gained from AI, right? I mean, there truly honestly is. It can answer a lot of questions for us. I think the better portion that I guess I'm going to see is potentially medical, right? Can you build a good enough computer, put together enough AI that it can pinpoint like the actual roots of cancer or dementia or things that continue to haunt us as a society, right? I do think that the AI is there specifically. I think it can help things of that nature. But then on the flip side, you know, a lot of the future movies or whatnot that we see, one of the side effects of good AI is a lack of jobs. Okay. I mean, just look at it right now. We've seen the change already without having a tremendous amount of AI. You go into McDonald's right now, they have little windows you can go and order touch screen, right? Now, eventually, in the past, that was somebody's job. So I think what we're going to see from AI as far as being a detriment to society is that I think it's going to slowly start to take people's jobs to the sense that, are we going to be able to manufacture enough jobs to keep a healthy society? Because listen, people have to work. It's not only just to earn money, it's psychological. It's about being a part of something. It's about putting in an honest day's work to feel good about yourself. If you don't contribute to society, you start to feel useless, and then you probably turn to crime and many other things. So think about this. We are close to self-driving cars. I was out in LA several weeks ago, and they have these Waygos cars or whatever, cars self-driving. Again, it's in its early form, but how long? I'm guessing within the next 20 years, we have semi trucks that are going to be driving themselves, right? Now, everybody might look around and say, oh, that's a great thing. That's fantastic. And in some ways, it really is. But on the flip side, that's 10 million plus American jobs of people making a good wage, because truck driving is hard, and you can make a lot of money doing it because, again, not a lot of people want to do that, for a really long time. So as we go forward, AI is only going to start making people's jobs go away. So then you got to ask yourself, what are those people going to go do? Because there isn't going to be enough. So then we go back to what we were kind of talking about earlier. What are people? And by the way, if you can't work, what do you end up doing? You're going to rely on your government to subsidize your entire lifestyle. Because if there aren't enough jobs, you get up to 20% of people that cannot work, not because they're disabled, just because there isn't enough work, there's not enough manufacturing, could lead to war, could lead to so many things. And then on the one last side of AI, I guarantee you, for all the good that's going to be put out there, you better look at all these military companies, right? They're going to look at AI as a completely different thing, right? Military weapons, we're already seeing it. So does that lead to the Terminator effect? I think for me, the problem with AI is going to be the lack of jobs, the lack of society because of it. And are we going to be able to sustain a healthy society where people can work, earn money, and live, raise their children?
Understand. Zach, your thoughts on this one. Is AI going to harbor in the end of humanity?
So I remember when I was a kid, my dad wore high socks, and I used to make fun of him. And he would make fun of me for wearing short socks.
Sissy
And
socks.
yeah, sissy socks. And he told me, one time, I think it was a different conversation, but he told me that everything kind of comes back around to be cool again, right? And which is true, right? I mean, girls are wearing bell-bottom jeans and, plaid has made a comeback. You see it a lot in the fashion world, but I think that AI will ultimately save our culture by destroying the internet. I think have you heard of the dead internet conspiracy theory?
I have heard that, yes.
So it essentially so today, I think 15% of every single thing you see on the internet was automatically generated. And I
Right.
think that social media, you're going to see bot created content commented on by bots, liked by bots. And so it's just like bots liking and commenting on each other's posts, right? And so the dead internet theory suggests a significant portion of online activity is no longer driven by real human users, but rather by automated systems, bots, and AI generated content. Proponents of this theory argue that the shift has transformed the internet into a space where authentic human connections are increasingly rare, replaced by algorithmically curated interactions and content. And I think given enough time, 100% of it will be. And good old fashioned meeting up for a beer or going to the lodge or, those types of activities, in-person events, in-person activities, no more Zoom calls, all of this stuff. I think that that's going to make a comeback. And it may not be in our generation, it may be my kids or even their kids, but I think ultimately social media will die because of this. And because it's like a virus and it spreads and there's no cure. So I think it will ultimately save our the next generation because they will think it's cool to get together rather than talk in a chat room. So I just think that's part of the cycle. Um, as far as the jobs go, I don't disagree with you. It's growing pains. It's growing pains, and you can look back through history. There's been other AI, you know, revolutions before. It just wasn't AI. It was the car. All of the horse breeders went out of business when the wheel was invented, or you know, whatever. There's 100 examples of it, and so I think that we're durable. We'll find a way to get through that piece of it. But I think the biggest thing is that it'll save our culture. It'll get worse before it gets better, but I think it'll save our culture by destroying social media. I hope.
Gotcha. Wendell, you.
Well, I talked to somebody today that went to a bank and their teller was it was a real person, but it was on a video screen. And they were in a different state. That was their teller at their bank. First time I'd really heard that. That's really not AI so much as technology, just helping something. But they were talking to the the bank person. They said, yeah, it did. They asked him about, did it eliminate any jobs? And that person said, well, it created more jobs here in our home office, but I guess it did eliminate some, but we created more jobs here than it eliminated there. And I thought, what a crock. There's no businessman in the world that's going to do that. There were jobs eliminated. That's why they do it, but to me, we keep talking, AI's here, guys. It's not common. It's here. And, Zach has the auto drive cars in his driveway, so he knows that it's here. AI's here. I think it's going to be just a different life. Like what Zach said, we're going to do things differently. I think you all give humanity a lot more credit than I do, because money runs everything. And it doesn't matter if AI can cure cancer. AI is not curing cancer if it's not profitable. And does humanity, and when I say humanity, it's just all of us in general terms. Do you want everybody to live to be 99? Hell, we can't even support people living to 60. So do you want to cure every disease and let everybody live till 99? Somewhere along the way, and I don't mean to be cruel, but there is planned obsolescence in everything. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's a nice feeling to have everybody live to be 100 and 150, and I would love it. I think it would be the right thing to do. God would think it was the right thing to do, I think, but I don't think there's any way in hell our civilized world will let that happen unless they find a way to manage it properly in their eyes, whatever properly is in their terms, because but I think it's here. I think, you mentioned the military aspect. Now, if you run a country and you want to try to take Alaska and you attack it, well, in the past you planned, well, we're going to lose 1 million men. We're going to lose 1 million people. The cost isn't worth us trying to take that Strait of Alaska or whatever. Now you can produce millions and millions of, those dogs you've seen, those military dogs that are armed and drones and things, and you could run them in, and guess what? You failed. Oh, we lost 1 million drones. Big deal. We got 2 million more on the shelf. We'll try it again next year, because you don't have that loss of life anymore. That will affect the world. I think that will affect a lot of military decisions. A lot of Taiwan, I think, might be the first example that you're going to see it played out.
Well, you already see it, right? Any conflict we get involved with, we're like, all right, yeah, but no troops on the ground.
Right.
We'll do it through drones. We'll do it through air, and that's been like that for the last 10 years.
Yeah, and if you haven't noticed, assassinations are getting to be very acceptable from governments now. Blowing up a car full of people.
Have you guys have heard that saying that strong men create good times create soft men create hard times create strong men?
Yeah.
I think that is AI is part of this cycle, is that AI will create soft men, which will create hard times, which will create hard men, right? And then the cycle continues.
In my opinion, as far as AI goes, unfortunately, I think we're just at the beginning of AI, and once it gets to the peak, it's going to find us as like gnats, and it's going to do away with us somehow. That we get in the way, and the people in power, the controllers, they'll be protected, but for the rest of us, I don't know. Tell you the truth. Let's see. Okay. All right. Here's a good one. It's a quick roundtable question here. All right. You guys are walking on a beach. You come across a lamp. You rub the lamp, a genie pops out. offers you one wish. Zach, what would be that one wish?
Oh man. Does it have to be realistic? Like,
Oh, absolutely not.
No,
no.
it could be.
So I I asked this question to one of my professors one time, and he said the ability to make people poop their pants on command, because it would be a lifetime of entertainment. If you're driving down the highway and you see a cop got somebody pulled over, boom. So, uh, I I don't know. I mean, I'm a superhero nut, so I would pick a superhero. Superman. He lives longer than everybody else. He's stronger than everybody else. He can fly, which I think would be the most amazing thing in the world. Um, you know, I would probably it, if that situation came about, that's what I would wish for. But if a more realistic one, without thinking, too supernatural, I would say to always know what the truth is. To always know what the truth is. Now, there wouldn't be a need for this podcast anymore to debate it. I could just tell you.
Right.
But
Yeah.
knowing what the truth is, I think that it opens up a lot of doors. I don't like the something for nothing. I've never been a something for nothing type of guy, so I wouldn't ask for $1 trillion or anything like that. But I would love an opportunity to be able to earn that. And I think that always knowing what the truth is would open up a lot of opportunity, across the board, not just money, but you could make sure you choose the right spouse, make sure you raise your kids correctly, make sure you could run a profitable business and blah blah. You could invent things. You could not be distracted by the noise. You would always see nothing but pure signal. Not a lot of noise, all signal. So I think that that would be my realistic wish, I think.
Now, with that wish, and what would the negative of that wish be that you would see just how much of liars and deceitful humans are? Wouldn't that irritate you?
Probably. I mean, ignorance is bliss. However, I think like like all things, you get used to it, whatever it is. Even
Gotcha.
if you get, if your dad beats you every day, you get used to it at, a few years in, or whatever. You get used to anything. Not that my dad beat me, but you can get used to anything. And so yeah, it would be a shock in the beginning, but you could get used to
Right.
it. And I think that the truth in general is more important than how anything would make you feel.
Gotcha. Steve, how about you, man?
When I was younger, it would have been money, fame, glory, all the things that a younger man would definitely, be. But now as I get older and I start looking through things, I'm only 47, but still definitely changes, especially in your 40s. I feel like that's when life actually takes a dramatic turn in many ways. I think, if I could kind of do a Thanos like snap of my fingers, I think it would be my wish would actually be to see American society actually reach what it could be, where even your poorest poor are able to like afford home, easy health care. Not that everybody has to live talking about what Wendell was talking about earlier. We all going to have a regular life, but in the sense, you live to whatever, or you die, whatever it is, but rather just see humanity go back to serving humanity, the American dream actually being alive, where we all could work. I mean, you could work a job for 40 hours a week and you can live a decent life. Like, you can honestly live a pretty damn good life. The rich can still be wealthy, but maybe a little less wealthy, and the poor can definitely not be so poor but still be able to live in a decent neighborhood, raise kids. So just to be able to snap my fingers and we actually see what the United States really is capable of, what our forefathers saw, come to fruition in the sense of, the government actually serving we don't have all this debt. We have enough money coming in that we can actually fund programs that maybe help things, but at the same time defend our glorious nation. And just, it would be very interesting, because then I could say, well, you know what? I would like to say I lived at the peak of society, like that we actually, because it isn't about just me. It's about watching my kids grow up in a future plane of existence that they could be proud of, right? Like seeing what we're capable by flicking my thing. Who knows where we would actually be if there was less corruption and more actually about the people. And I don't mean in a communist sort of way. I want people to be rich, and I want people maybe, hey, listen, if you took things more seriously and you went to school for 8 years and pursued whatever it is, or the person who spent time in their garage and invented something that changed the world, however, right? That person should be rewarded. But just to be able to see what we actually were intended to do in our nation, and what it actually could look like without all the corruption, which would, part of it would go back to what Zach is saying, which would be seeing the truths of what got us here in a sense, so that we can correct those things. But just being able to snap my fingers and go, hey, and seeing what we actually were intended to be and to do, I think it'd be really
Right.
cool.
Sounds good. How about you, Wendell?
I'd want the powers of a genie.
You'd get lonely, Wendell.
No, I wouldn't. I would love life.
They're never happy.
I could make politicians tell the truth.
Yeah, but
Always.
the
I could
genie,
make criminals say whether they were guilty or innocent, or people that were accused. I could make them say whether they were guilty or innocent. I guess I could help the worthy and punish the not worthy. But no, I'd want the powers of a genie. There's so much in this world I just wish, and you know, having that much power, who knows what it'd do to you? But I would love for people to have to tell the truth. I would love to be able to go into a prison and just the guilty light up for me. You know what I mean? I think we spend so much of our existence trying to control other individuals. It really becomes what our life is. Everything's control, from, your HOAs to your city councils to your school boards to your, just people do the right thing. Just do the right thing. Be nice to each other. Treat people the way you want to be treated. You get in different beliefs, and people have different, what they think is right and wrong. And I think that's what's going on a lot in the world, and especially America now. Everything's subjective. And that's what I said when they started taking God's rules out. Everything becomes subjective. So if Zach thinks something's okay and it's gonna save somebody's life on his end, he's okay with it. And same with me and same with you guys. I mean, if everything becomes subjective, there's no order, I guess you would say. So I would like the powers of the genie, just so to back to what Zach was saying, so I could hear the truth, see the truth, and everybody would
Gotcha.
know the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
Now mine, it would just be wisdom. That's all. Just wisdom. Plain and simple. What's the right thing to do here? Throughout all life. For me.
I thought that came with the white hair there.
Yeah, it's not white enough just yet. It'll probably be all gone before it gets all white. But well, with that, guys, great discussion. We got through a couple questions today. We talked about the Bothies. It was great having you guys on. That was a lively discussion I think we had tonight.
Hey, one more thing. What about the conspiracy theory thing? I already threw mine out there. I think there's a conspiracy theory. The conspiracy theory should be on sports announcers, because they're destroying the games that I loved.
All right, so that is your perceived conspiracy theory,
Yes,
or
there's a
what could be
conspiracy
a
there.
conspiracy theory.
Stop announcing a football game like a soccer game. Stop announcing a basketball game like a soccer game. They're not the same.
Okay. Steve, your perceived or what could be a conspiracy theory.
Who's next?
Steve.
Okay. So I got a silly one that I've been thinking about. Again, it means nothing to nobody, but I had always had this conspiracy theory that like soap companies, anywhere from dish soap all the way through like any regular human soap, made a deal with all the companies that do things with nails. So I think that all the soap companies put ingredients in that make our nails grow, so that we have to use things like nail clippers and women can, I think they have a conspiracy together where they put items in soap that make our nails grow longer and faster.
Nice, nice.
They both
That's a new
benefit.
one.
They both
That's-
benefit
yeah.
from it.
I like it. I like it. Zach, how about you, man?
This is what I think should be a conspiracy theory. It's not.
Yeah.
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 Or what could be a conspiracy theory.
I think that they do have medications that could cure some of the worst illnesses in the world. But like I think my dad said it earlier, that it's not profitable to do that. So they keep them shelved. Just like, have you ever heard of damn it, I forget what it's like, Article 51 or Article 59, something like that. But it's where the government confiscates the intellectual property of people. And so like the hydrogen car, or the car that runs off of water, those are real.
Yeah.
Those are real.
Right.
But the government, the United States government, confiscated that intellectual property and shelved it, for oil companies and car companies and everything else. And so what I think it'd be foolish to think that it stops at that, at a car that runs on water. I think it goes across pharmaceuticals, it goes across across the board. Things that keep us in our matrix,
Keeps the money flowing.
Yeah.
Mine
what do you think?
Mine is the Mandela effect. I think that was brought to you by the people who did the Stanford prison experiment. You tell enough people, hey, Mandela, don't you remember when he died? And everybody's like, you know what? Oh, yeah, I do. All of a sudden, it's like this hive mind. Or do you remember Fruit Loops with the cornucopia and stuff like that? I think the Mandela effect, it was definitely a ploy to start showing just how like gullible our minds can be sometimes, man. But the one that got me lately was, do you guys know William Dafoe?
Yeah.
Do you know it's been
actor?
Willem? Yeah. Do you know on like every movie, if you go back and look, I thought his name was William Dafoe. But if you go back now and look on the movies that he's been in, it's always been Willem, Willem. That blew my mind. I was like, I thought his name was William Dafoe. But it's always been Willem. His naturalized name is William Dafoe. But since he's been in movies, he's gone by the Dutch version, Willem. And that blew my mind because I always thought it was William Dafoe, but he's always come out as Willem. But I think that was my own perception being an American, just seeing Will, and you're just like, oh, William Dafoe, I know him. But I've gotten it wrong all these years.
Oh.
One more quick round, Jeff. What is your favorite conspiracy? Start with you.
My favorite one, my favorite conspiracy, I would have to go with the moon landing conspiracy. There's so much to that we don't know, that you could dive deep forever, and look into that one. I think that one's probably my top mine.
About you, Steve?
Well, I was just telling Jeff a story this week about, I mean, look, listen, overall, how can you beat the JFK? Like just on just a big scope. Honestly, how can you honestly beat the JFK conspiracy theory, right? You can go a million different directions with that, with who did it, why they did it, and everything. So I'm not going to beat that one up because that'd be like really kicking a dead horse. But I was telling Jeff this week, I asked him if he knew the story of Jackie Gleason seeing an alien, and he had never heard that one. And I heard it on several different podcasts, and I think it was a Coast to Coast AM where so Nixon needed money for Watergate. He needed to pay the families of the people who did it so that they wouldn't turn on him, although we all see what happened anyways. But supposedly he needed money, and he needed it off the books. He couldn't have it coming from the government. He needed it from a silent source, essentially. So it was stated that, now I wasn't around at the time, but it was stated that Jackie Gleason at some point had put up at least $1 million. He said, if you could show me proof that aliens exist, I'll pay you $1 million. So Nixon needing money, he sent a helicopter when Jackie Gleason lived down in Florida. He had a helicopter land in his backyard right next to this golf course. Jackie Gleason jumped on the helicopter. It took him about 20 minutes over to an Air Force base. He landed, he got out, walked into a hangar, and his life was changed forever. According to his wife, according to many close friends of his, he went into that hangar and he saw dead aliens on tables. And when he had left, he no longer talked about the need or the belief about aliens because he had already had it. And even from what I understand, the people who did the research on this said that they had talking to his wife, and there's actually a lot of sources that say that story is true, but at least for now, it's a conspiracy theory, essentially.
Gleason did say it changed his life.
Yeah.
He did. Yep.
There's something American about that story, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What about yours, Wendell?
Oh, mine's a moon landing, but
yeah,
my close second is General Corso reverse engineering all the Roswell debris. It connects so many dots connect with his story. The way when you hear him tell it, I mean, it is so the way the industries work and stuff. He is so on, and as much effort as they spend trying to debunk him, that makes me believe it even more. Fiber optics, Velcro, the transistor, I think was one.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. His logic of how to introduce it into the American economy makes sense. Find an entrepreneur like Zach and say, hey, I need you to work this in. Take all the credit you want for it, but I need it in the system. I need a company to come up with it. And God bless you. All the royalties are yours, but make it work. And it makes perfect sense to me on the business side of things, how to do that. And you wouldn't have a whole department of people doing that. You would have one individual going to each of these companies. And I think a lot of them are still really big today. Raytheon, whether it be Lockheed Martin, Boeing,
Skunk Works.
Yeah, just the big companies out here. All the the most of the aerospace industry type folks.
Right.
But that's a close second. Moon landing's top of the hill to me.
Gotcha.
And
how about you, Zach? Your favorite conspiracy theory?
Yeah, mine's Roswell. There's too many things came out of that in the next 5 years to believe it was a weather balloon. Fiber optics, microchips, lasers, Kevlar, night vision, stealth technology, radar really made a huge jump after that. Transistors, microwave technology, composite metals. Composite metals were not even a thing prior to that. It was all pure metals. It was either iron or it was carbon or it was copper or
Right.
it was blah, blah. That's composite metals, thermal imaging, like Velcro, like all of that in a span of 5 years, all out of the same, or you could probably trace those back and they all come out of, Area 51, which also popped up after that.
Right.
Or Skunk Works. So yeah, I think that one has the most potential to it, that you could actually prove something there. The moon landing is obviously second. How did we lose the technology? That is just, it either lends to my point that they're total buffoons. Actually, that fits both. If they went to the moon and they lost all the technology, they're buffoons and we got lucky, or they faked it poorly, and had the flag waving and everything else on the moon, and then the what do you call it, the lander takes
Yeah.
off and the camera follows it. Who the hell do you leave on the moon to move the camera?
Right.
Oh, we
Yep.
could.
Yeah,
We're going
those
to talk
two
about that
are-
sometime. We just haven't got brave enough to talk about it yet. We know that's a biggie.
No, that's a long show right there, man.
yeah.
But what?
I think those have the most potential.
Yeah.
So,
Well, to the guests, it was great having you on. I thought we had a lively discussion tonight. This was our first roundtable discussion of just random questions. Very interesting answers, lively discussion. Wendell, your thoughts on the episode tonight, man?
no, I like it. Every one of these every now and then is really good. Steve's always an awesome guest.
Thank you.
Zach, it's always good to get you on here and get your generation thoughts and your we all come from different perspectives and different angles on things, and Zach, you bring a real unique one, and we appreciate it. No, I think it was a good idea, Jeff. It's kind of nice to get just to talk like you and I used to talk
Right,
about
yeah.
different topics and a roundtable
Yep.
kind of thing. And it's always good to have guests and on certain subjects. And I think
Right.
we are in October now, so we're going to go to the scary side of things this
Yes.
month with some ghost stories, and we got some really good ones lined up. So I think those are great too. But it's always good just to get together, throw some philosophy around too.
Right.
So,
Well, Steve, Zach, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
Thank
that was
you.
awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Absolutely.
not
Always.
a problem. We'll do this again sometime. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching Buried Stories. If you would like, leave a comment below on what you thought of this program. And if you would, give us an email at buriedstories74@gmail.com. Until next time, have a good one.